Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and we're going to get to our two cards today, which are going to be the ship and the house. But I just want to update a few Lenormand kinds of things. Well, first one's not Lenormand. This one I'm really excited about because I've come up between people on the Facebook group and such. I think we're pretty well determined what my mystery stones are. This one we have decided is, now I wrote it down, but let's make sure, rhodonite, R-H-O-D-O-N-I-T-E, this one here. I'm pretty comfortable with that. This one we're still thinking is a carnelian, just a very warm one. These we are thinking are a pale lemon citrine. And some of that is by the hardness factor, because the other one, it was a calcite that it could be, but it would have been a much softer, waxier, and these are definitely very quartzy feeling. And then these beautiful eggshell pink ones, we have decided are mangano calcite, and I can see, like, if this is calcite, it feels very different than these. I don't think these could be a calcite because it just feels completely different. So yes, I have through the help of wonderful people figured out these mystery stones and added them to my kind of working spiral one that I'm going to be adding into my regular one that I'm in the process of working on. So yay! Yay for finding out what stones are. So I wanted to put that on there. I also finished my contraband Lenormand, which I have also sanded up the cover and made it look kind of dusty and older, and have Hope put on there. Though I think it's kind of hard to see it, but it looks like it's dusty in person with the word Hope for like Game of Hope, as looks like it is just not got dust on it. I love how it looks in person. So I also distressed the backs in various, ways and levels. Some not as much as others. It's hard to pick up, but I did distress the backings as well, so that it would all be distressed. And then, ta-da! Here, the camera is way up there, so let's bring her down. So yep, I mean, I'm not going to show them all because obviously it's just a word, but I really like how messy they came out, because I had to sand them. I was going for a distressed look given the font for the stencil, and because I was going to sand it, that's kind of what I was looking for. I didn't like some of the letters, like I didn't like the 2, I didn't like the S. There were just certain letters, like that S to me just looks like a blob. But I mean, it says house. I didn't really like the 4. So there were some of the letters that I wasn't thrilled with, but overall, it looks exactly what I like how that one turned out, because that was a little bit of a longer one. But yeah, I'm so happy with how this turned out. This one got really messed up, but it works fine because I did stars again. So I had to get rid of the S and do stork. So that was the main mess up one, but it works fine because it's a distressed. I feel like the story of this is like we're in the future, and in the kind of steampunky future, and somebody comes across, like in Myst, the game Myst, somebody comes across this playing card with Hope just highlighted there in the dust. There are other words, but I love it because I think that this, here's my man and the lady, I put down at the bottom because I didn't want to mess up the gorgeous aces, and it kind of sets it apart. And I didn't, I think that it makes the really good point that you really don't need pictures for Lenormand, right? If you really come down to that understanding of the Lenormand meanings, you don't need the pictures. It's not necessary, because the writer is the writer is the writer. Now, it's great for directionality and things like that, but some of that I just know already, where like the writer for me is going towards the right, the light card's on the right, the dark card's on the left for me, if it doesn't have anything specific in the card. And so you kind of get to know those things after a while anyways. So then I'd flip it over and I would look for the significator, which is nice because it's down at the bottom. So there's the lady, all right? And then I could pull 2 cards before I have a man who is an anchor here, and I have a heart. See, now for me, the scythe is about harvesting, and I know that that is really not, it could be an uncomfortable harvesting, but it is still a harvesting for me. There's a harvesting connotation. It can be painful, but it is necessary, and it does bring something with it, and it brings a sense of abundance, if not money. So I would just look at that, and then you could quickly just answer your questions. And it's great for really paying attention to the playing cards when you're, like, let's say doing the master method, where you're really looking over. So let's say we're going to do a 9 card. Let me pull out it here. So let's pull for the moon, because this is the new moon today, and we're having a solar eclipse. So I'm going to do that for within and without advice. And so why don't we go ahead and do a reading with the moon card here. So if I go about my business and I look for the moon, there's the moon. So I'm going to take 4 cards after it, 4 cards before it. All right, so there's moon. 1, 2, 3, 4. These cards are gorgeous. Melissa bought me these cards and they feel amazing. You can see that I left things to be smudgy and splattered, and that was on purpose, because I knew it was going to be that distressed look, and I quite love how these turned out. I'm not gonna lie. So here we have the moon, and when we go to the upper right hand corner or left hand corner to see what this has to say for us, we can see that the anchor card is there, so it's an anchoring. Now we could be talking about work, but I'm kind of looking at these a little more oracally, and so I'm thinking of it more as stabilizing. This is the low, the new moons are kind of the low energy phase, and so we're kind of set an anchor before we go out into the next energy of the rest of the month. So we have some movement though, right? We have movement towards a sense of stability, but we need to be paying attention to something. What do we need to be paying attention to? Well, there's some difficulties that may be coming up in this next month that we're going to need to pay attention to. And the key to that success of kind of paying attention to this, for me, is snake. Now, I know that the snake is a negative connotation, but for me, traditionally the snake can have to do with a winding way. It can also be transformative. And so because we're going to doing a moony kind of energy, then I would look at this more along the way, is that looking at these difficulties as being transformative is going to be a key to kind of successfully navigating any difficulties that come up in the next cycle of energy that come up. We do have the stability bringing harmony and a sense of well-being up here, so that's a good thing. So we have the more difficult things we need to pay attention to here in this particular spread. We have the positive aspects here, and we almost have sort of our answer on how to deal with those so that we do get that up there. So that's just a quick little look on how you might use this, but you could also then look at, like, okay, we've got a predominant, we have 3 clubs here, we have 3 spades here, we have a couple hearts, we have the diamonds, and you can get into a little bit more of the playing cards associations, which I'm not going to do, because for me that is sort of a next step Lenormand thing, and we're really kind of focused right now on let's get through the beginning kind of stuff first, right? So there we have it. So there is my Hope Lenormand is what I'm calling it. I hope you can see that, because I think it's actually pretty cool. So you would find this if you were on an island like Mist in the future and realize that this is going to be your path out of the darkness. Yes, I'm dramatic. Yes, I am. Okay, so I wanted to make sure I showed you that because I'm so excited. And how gorgeous does that look with this background anyways? So let's take a look at our cards for the day. We have the next two cards coming up, which is the ship and the house. So let's find the I probably passed it because this is what I do all of the time. Oh, there's the house right there. That's what happens all the time. And there's the ship. Okay, so we have number 3 and number 4, the ship and the house. So let's go ahead and move in here. And remember, it doesn't matter what your ship looks like. It doesn't matter what your house looks like, because the ship and the house, let's see if I can quickly, here's the ship. And there's the house. There is no difference between these two cards and these two cards. They mean the exact same thing. Nothing about these beautiful images changes the fact that it is the ship and it is the house. And so that's why I think a deck like this is kind of nice, because it kind of really strips out that trying to kind of make it more than what it is based on the image that often people who come from tarot have a problem with. So as you can see, the ship card is the 10 of spades, which we can see in the corner of this card. Some cards show you that, some cards don't, but this card obviously really shows it clearly. The house card is the King of Hearts. The ship is about travel. It's about navigating. It can also have a connotation of longing, which is interesting. It kind of reminds me in some ways of the expectation card in the Kipper deck, where it is the woman is kind of longing. It's the patience card. It's going to take a while, but it can be actual traveling. Let me see. What did I put in? It's travel and great distance and longing. Those are the 3 that I put on your chart. This is just my little white book. But that's the ones that are just on that handout that you got. That's the most important to know. The idea of traveling, great distance, and that idea of longing. It's movement, but it's a long-term movement. It's a long distance moving. It's not going to be anything that's fast. Whereas the rider was quite quick movement and fast movement. So we have that. Then let me go back to this. So I want you to just see what for the house, quick ones is home, house, security. It's what you think about when you think about home. This is sanctuary, right? This is about saying it can be a man. And one of the nice things about having one that actually has the playing cards in is that you very quickly see that it has got a face card. So it's a king or a jack or a queen, which lets you know it could be another person, because there's not a lot of people cards in Lenormand as there are in Kipper. And so one of the ways in which you find people cards is by then their playing card suit. When you can actually see that face card, it can help you remember. But this does tell you it is the King of Hearts. So we know that this could also be a person, somebody that you're quite comfortable with. There we have, just the basic ideas of what you think about with a perfect, that idea of home. Now, sometimes people have histories of bad home lives, and so that's not quite what we're looking at here, but the ideal idea of home. So we have the idea of our domesticated area, our family areas. This can be a literal house if you're looking at house issues. If you're working from home, you might have like the anchor in. If you're asking a question about work and that comes out, it might be some ways in which you have to work from home. So you can have those kinds of ideas that you pay attention to as you're doing it. But remember, what we're trying to do is just kind of stick with our core meanings here. So when we take, let me move these out of the way for right now. Shove them over here. When we look at the 2 cards together, we have that idea of ship, that idea of traveling. Well, we can look at where are we traveling to. We're traveling to a place of security, right? We could do that as well. You could also switch these around and we have a house that is moving. So that could, we could be getting ready to move. That could be literally, we're going to be moving house, so to speak. So that makes, you know, you can logically say, okay, what is this? This is about security. But this is a security that may be in flux. It's in long-term flux, but it is still in a movement. If we're talking about security versus an actual house, if we're talking about our security, so in some ways that's moving. We may be moving from one phase to another in terms of security. We may be actually moving, which makes us feel unstable, but you kind of, for me, you think about the house, which is very secure and stable, and we think about the ship, which you can kind of think about the moving, you know, feeling, being on deck and feeling that sense of movement. So there is a security there, but it is a kind of in flux. Not quick flux, but it's in flux in some way. So the question that I had for the ship and the house is, talk about what these two cards mean, which we did. What significant move that you've had in your life and how did it impact you? So if you've had a significant move, what would that be? Now, I'm one of those people who grew up, you know, I had a large family, and so we lived in the same place for most of my life, and then we had another shift kind of halfway through my life, and then we lived there until I was married. So that's always been very concrete. I got married, you know, quite quickly out of high school, had kids quite quickly. We kind of stayed within an area, local area. So I really don't feel like I had a significant move in terms of actually moving. Until I moved out on my own. So the first thing that comes to mind is, you know, after my divorce 4 years ago, for the first time in my life, I was actually living on my own. You know, I went from a very large family, being married, having kids quickly, to, you know, living on my, well, I had Michael, but again, you know, a couple of days, I was on my own financially. I was in my own place. And, you know, there were a couple, you know, days out of the week when he would visit his dad where you know, I was literally on my own, and that's not something that I had ever experienced before. That was a significant move for me. That was the equivalent of going out, you know, and you're graduating high school and going out and getting your first apartment. Like, it was a very significant move, and it's taught me a lot about being able to stand on my own 2 feet, that I am capable of taking care of myself, and that I am capable of doing so in such a way in which I was still able to stay home and be with Michael. And it just, and being, you know, it was very difficult the first year, those times in which I was completely alone, because I really didn't know how to be completely alone. And so learning how to do that was a very important shift for me. So it was a security shift as well as a physical house shift. And, you know, I really have learned some powerful things, that you don't need as much money as you might think you do to live comfortably, and that I could stand on my own 2 feet, and that it was wonderful to have my own space in which I felt free to do what I want and have cubicles full of tarot decks and things like that. And so some of that has gone down now that I've been doing this for a few years now, but that first, you know, initial move was pretty crazy. And Katie at the time was 19 or so. I guess she would have been 19. And in that first phase of thinking about moving out with friends and this kind of thing. And so we were in some ways going through similar phases. But me at, you know, a 40, whatever I would have been at the time, 43 or so age, and her at 19, but we were going through some of the firsts together that was quite hilarious. So that would be a significant move that had quite a lot of impact on me. And so that's just the question that came to mind when I had originally saw these cards. So here we have our look at that. So that was a lot of fun. I've been trying to do some tips. So let's take a look at a 6-card reading, because I've been trying to do some kind of, you know, little peek into kind of doing readings or doing other things before we get to the straight, you know, go where we're going to really kind of dig in and spend a whole time on a 6-card. I just want to kind of give a peek, because one of the questions people have had is if you go to do something and you only say have, so if we're doing the gentleman and we only have so many cards, what would we do? And we also have been doing all draws in which we're looking for the actual significator. So I thought this time we would just do a quick 6 card but not picking out a significator. I really like 6 cards for this because I'll show you why. Because I just do real quick. So if you're going to lay these down, what you're going to think about your question. You know, because this is, again, the new moon, what is the energy that maybe that I want to focus on moving forward this coming month? So what you do is go through and then you would lay your three, and here I show up and with a whip. Beware, people, beware. And a stork. So we have repetitive changes, right? That may be feeling disagreeable. We have the sun, though. We have the moon. And we have the child. So that's quite interesting because it is a new moon, right? So that's quite wonderful that we have that there. So let's zoom this in. I love this deck, by the way. It's really catapulted to being one of my favorite Lenormand decks. I think it's quite gorgeous. Hopefully you can see all that. So then what I do here is I think of this as above and so below. And boy, do we have some stuff going on below. We have the sun card, which is the happy card. We have the moon card, which for me is that, you know, especially because tonight is the full moon, so that's quite, or the new moon, I should say. So that's quite, and this is the new moon. What kind is the moon? What kind of moon? It's the new moon. So that is quite interesting. What's also interesting is that today is the new moon, and my child, who is Michael, I was told Patrick knows a little bit more about moons than I do, and he told me today that Michael was actually born on a new moon, which I did not know, and it was quite wonderful to learn that. And so to have the child show up on the moon card, by the moon card, is quite interesting thing to do. But what I will generally do is I'll do these little diagonals. So I'll look at the lady in the moon and the stork. And so this is interesting because I'm actually working a lot with moon energy, and that deeper understanding of, you know, I was actually just looking at books about the moon cycles because I follow the moon, but it's one of my key things to learn this year. And so this kind of information that I'm going to be learning about the moon is going to bring about positive change and positive movement. We also have happiness. Well, what kind of happiness? Repetitive happiness, which is good. And sun is also going to pull up any disagreeable aspects in the coming month that is may show up. And it may be some new difficulties or new things that come up, but I have the sun to kind of buffer any new problems that are going to be coming up within the next month. And then, so we have that. So I kind of like to do that, and I look at those. So it's like a 3 card here and a 3 card there. And then you can look at these, so you can kind of look at my sense of happiness. Are repetitive. This is a repetitive over and over again of the repetitive cycles of the moon, and this is going to bring new and positive change. So this just, again, I'm not trying to take these overly serious. I'm just kind of giving you, people talk about kind of tipping their toes in. They kind of enjoy seeing where you can go with it. If you're, you know, playing around with your cards and you want to try to kind of skip ahead and just peek a little bit, that's a way that you can do it. Just lay out. And with this one, we didn't go for a specific card, but simply laid it fresh without like looking for a significator, and then just seeing what that comes up. Of course, you might have a question as well. So that's quite interesting, and I just wanted to show you that so that you could see it. So I hope that you are enjoying these. Please make sure to try to check out other people's videos. I know Mr. Lunar, of course, is doing what on his, where he is going through the cards like we went through the house and the ship. He is actually reading the poems that went on the traditional ones, both in English and in Dutch. So you can, you know, pop over to his to see that. Lindenhart's is going through the German book, and so she's kind of going deeper, like she's digging a little bit deeper. I'm trying to keep on the surface and a little bit more for straight up beginners. She's digging down a little bit deeper into it, so you can go look at her videos. But there's a lot of videos out, as well as people. If you're on Instagram and you search for the hashtag Lenormarch, you can see video or pictures that some people who maybe aren't on YouTube and stuff are doing to kind of join in on Lenormarch. So it's been a lot of fun. We're a weekend now, and I'm really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to, just continuing on through the rest of the month. So I'll talk to you guys all tomorrow.